Okay. What's happening? Hello? Hello, hello. Welcome to Beyond the Page. Welcome to church, y'all. Right here every single Tuesday. It always seems like I've got some kind of mishap going on. I'm just like, what is happening right now? Y'all, listen, I'm so glad that you are here today. Yes, I'm so glad. So we can have this conversation. Still talking about sin. But first, let me just calm down. Let me just relax. Let me just breathe for a minute. It's in the spirit of Salbona that you are welcome into this space. Salbona is that spirit of oneness that binds us together. It's a Zulu tribal greeting. It binds us together by our humanity. And if we were over there in Africa, somebody said Salbona and you wanted to agree with them, you'd say, yay, bo, Salbona. Yes, for the Salbona. Y'all see Low in the house. Oh, hey, Low in the house, whispering, wishing us life, prosperity, and health. Unc, Ujab, and Sunil. I hesitate to say those words because I do not want to mess them up. But I'm so glad that you are here. But we're talking about, but it's in that spirit of oneness, right? Where we realize at some point we have to wake up to the fact. Some point we have to realize that we in this thing together. Oh, we're in this love together. And a song oh, I hadn't thought about this song in a long time. We in this thing together, y'all. It's just us. When we were growing up, my daddy, we had this table in the kitchen. It was an oval table, but it was pushed up against the wall, so you really only had three sides. But it was three children. So my daddy told us to get up in that kitchen and sit down. Oh, he said, I said it right. I said it right. Ooh, ooh, I'm practicing. My daddy set us down at that table. I will never forget this. He set us down at the table, me, Dwayne, and Derek. Those are three children, the three Donnell children in that house. It's some more Donnells. My dad is 12 of them, so it's some more Donnells. But and he told us to look at each other. And we like, because we weren't used to that. Because some people's church, they say, touch your neighbor, turn to your neighbor and say something. We didn't do that. We went to a Sadidi church. We were like highfalutin church, high church. Woo! That's, that's how we used to sing in the choir. But my daddy said, look at it. So we looking at each other like, what is happening right now? And he told us, he said, you are all you have. It's just y'all. And y'all have got to stay together no matter what. And when I tell you, I don't know what it was about my daddy saying, I don't know what it was, but my brothers and I, we took that to heart. I hear some people talk about how they don't talk to their brother or sister. They haven't talked to them in years, or they mad at them right now, or we have never, that has never happened to my brother. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have, what does my brother call them, spirited conversations. That doesn't mean that we don't get on each other's nerves. That's not what it means at all. But we done figured that thing out, that it's just us and we cannot let go of each other. So whenever we figure that out, as humans, that we cannot let go of each other because we need each other to figure this thing out. we would be better off. And so the Salbona invites us into that space of being able to consider each other really as neighbor, as neighbor, as sibling, as family, as tribe, as nation, whatever word works best for you. So it's in that spirit of oneness that you are welcome into this space. And this is a space where we actually wrestle with our faith. People have been asking me for years, like, where your church? You pastor a church? And so I started a church. The name of the church is The Good Fight, which is why I had to change the name of this, because this is now powered by, this is now made possible. Beyond the Page makes it possible. I mean, The Good Fight makes it possible for us to have Beyond the Page as one of its ministries. And so this is church for me. This is what church looks like for me, for us to be able to sit together. Come, let us reason together in the midst of God, right? Because where two or three are gathered, there is God. So God is with us in this space. And God says, hey, ain't nothing too hard for me. You can ask me any question. You can deliberate on any topic. You can have it out. Like, I'm right here trying to help y'all figure it out. And so that's what we're here to do. And so invite somebody to church, y'all. Every Tuesday night, 7 o'clock, right here. Invite them to church. So we've been talking about sin for the past couple of weeks. I think it's probably been about 3 weeks now. We've talked about sin. And the first thing that we were doing is that I was hoping that we could see through the text that there's nowhere in Genesis 1, 2, Genesis 1 and 2 are the creation stories. There's two creation stories, and they're in Genesis chapter 1, chapter 2. So we had to talk about the creation stories in order to get to Adam and Eve because they were part of the creation. So it needed to start right there. So we started Genesis 1 and 2, and then we got to Genesis 3 where they say it's the fall. And I introduced you all to this new Bible that I'm using called the Lectio Bible. At this point, it's difficult to find because I'm having a I'm having a hard time finding it. But the Lectio Bible is a Bible that is written in such a way that it gets rid of all the distractions. So there are no chapters, there are no titles for the chapters, there are no verses in the Bible, because the goal is for you to experience God as you read. So we want to make sure that you're not being led by anybody else's framework or philosophy or thoughts or theology, but that you get to sit with God as you read. And whatever you feel like the Spirit says to you in that moment while you are reading, then that is what you grab hold to. And you're like, hey, hallelujah. That's your shouting moment. But it's also possible that you can sit and read, and you can sit with God and read and don't hear anything. That's okay too. Which then you say, hey, I'm grateful for the opportunity to have read, right? And so that's what this Bible is about. And so looking at this Bible where we take out all of the distractions, we're asking ourselves in Genesis chapter 3, where is the word sin? When God is talking specifically to Adam and Eve and the serpent, where does God say sin? And it's not in there at all. And even when we were wrestling with it together, you all were explaining to me where it is, but you had to explain it to me based on an interpretation from somewhere else because you could not find it in the text. And so we've heard about it. Everybody has told us that Adam and Eve sinned, yes. And so the question was, well, did God say that? Where did God say sin? And so that was Genesis chapter 3. And so the Genesis chapter 4 I read on last week, because this is where God says sin. Like God, so the answer to my question, like where is sin? Like where does God say sin? I, it's true, God says. I was acting like I don't see it, I don't see it. But really I just didn't see it in 1, 2, 3. Chapters 1, 2, 3. But we do find the word in verse in chapter 4. And so that's what we started talking about yesterday. But sometimes I lose last week, but sometimes I lose focus. And I went to bed and was like, did we get around to talking about the purpose of sin? Like, why did God, like, yes, God introduces sin in chapter 4 with Cain, but did we really talk about the purpose? Like, why would God introduce this whole thing? And then what does that look like? So I wanted to make sure that I'm focused tonight so that we can talk about that. And then, I don't know, I'm thinking that this is the last time we're going to talk about sin in this way, but we have to go with the flow. So we'll see. So I want to, I want to go back and read portions of Genesis chapter 4. I'm not going to read the whole thing. We're going to read portions of Genesis chapter 4 so that we can ground ourselves. I think I'm going to start with the end of chapter 3. But remember now, I'm using the Bible now that doesn't have it doesn't have all the verses, so I'm like, oh, I don't know exactly where we are, but I do know that it's the story that I'm more concerned about. So I'm going to pull up a very important part for us to start with. It's a repeat from last week, and then we'll go from there. So I want to read from you this portion of scripture right here. Oh, wait. Oh, shoot. Wait. Let me set it up. Let me set it up. So this is at the end of the conversation between God and the serpent and Adam and Eve. And so this is after Eve has eaten of the fruit. She has shared it with her partner, her husband, who is right beside her. And then they all three, I mean, Adam and Eve both eat of the fruit. Eve was egged on by the serpent, and the Adam was right there with her, so she didn't have to do any persuading at all because he heard the whole thing. And then God comes and says, "Oh, okay. So since you did what I asked you not to do, which was to not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, then because you did not listen to me, you chose to listen to each other and be persuaded by each other and all of that. God says there are consequences for your behavior. Like any parent, I set the rules for this house. If you're going to stay in this house, you must abide by the rules. If you don't abide by the rules, that's okay. That's a decision that you can make. However, you need to be ready to suffer the consequences. And that's what this conversation was about. And so God issues out consequences for the serpent. You now have to be on your belly, and the heel of the human offspring will bruise your head. So that means you are beneath them instead of walking upright like you were at first. And then Eve, you will have even more pain in labor when you are bringing forth children. And then and your desire will always be to your husband, for your husband. And so now here are the consequences for Adam that I want to raise up again to help us move forward in this conversation about what is the purpose of sin. Now in chapter 4, God uses sin, but what's the purpose of it? And so now here we go. Cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil, you will eat food from it all the days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow, you will eat your food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken. For dust you are, and to dust you will return. I feel like I need to read that again. Cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil, you will eat food from it all the days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow, you will eat your food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken. For dust you are, and to dust you will return. So this is God's consequence for Adam. Now, because you all were placed in Eden, you were placed in paradise. You didn't have to work. You didn't even have to wear no clothes. Everything was high and high, everything was high and mighty all the time. It was you all and God. And yes, you had the serpent in there. So I don't even know who else was in there. I don't know, but the serpent was in there. But I feel like now, like, why we just focus on the serpent? Wasn't there somebody else in there? Anyway, that's all we know, that the serpent was there. But the consequence that God gives to Adam, it says, now cursed is the ground because of you. Doesn't say cursed are you. Doesn't say cursed is your wife. It doesn't even say cursed is the serpent. It says cursed is the ground. So now that you wanted to do your own thing and you wanted to be grown and make your own decisions, well, the consequence is it's not going to be easy for you anymore. You've got no more privilege. You've got no more power to just to be like, listen, this is how we rolling up in the Garden of Eden. No, no, no. Now you've got to sweat. You've got to work, and you've got to work this ground. And the only thing that you're going to eat is what comes out of the ground, because this is the moment that God declares that we are supposed to be vegetarian. The only thing that you're supposed to be eating is that which you grow from the ground. We don't grow no animals from the ground. We don't grow no fish, no seafood from the ground. We only grow plants from the ground, fruits, plants, and fruit. That's what we're supposed to be eating. So in this moment, we are supposed to be vegetarian. And God says you're going to have to work. And he says you're going to have to work this ground, and it's going to be hard work for you all the days of your life until you return to the dust, because dust is what you came from and dust is what you will return to. And so those of us who are preachers, we have this, it's part of our ritual, it's part of the ritual ceremony that we have when people are, whatever words you use, when people die, when people transition, when their energy shifted, when they shifts, when they change forms, whatever your language is for yourself around the end of life as we know it on this earth, whatever that looks like for you, it says you're going to return. So we say this: ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And so it's really interesting to me, and I was talking about this the other day. It's so interesting to me how many of us shame other people who believe in cremation. It's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you cremating somebody. That's against the word. I'm like, no, actually, that is the word. All of this, I gotta go and have a casket and deck it out and get all the little the brass and the gold. I want to put stuff in there with the person. I want to have a whole 6 people got to carry it into the sanctuary. Like, all of that is some stuff that we came up with. God said ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And so this might be TMI for y'all. This might be too much information for y'all, but I'm gonna share it anyway. I know that the world tells us we're not supposed to pick our noses. Well, I guess we're not supposed to pick it in public, but I pick my nose. Oh, and not just the world. I was listening to this biologist. I don't really remember, but anyway, she was saying that the boogers, our mucus in our nose isn't to be picked because it should fall out on its own. It's supposed to fall out. We're not supposed to go in there and get it. We're supposed to fall out. I'm gonna be honest with you. I go up in there and get mad. I be like, let me see any boogers in my nose. And then because I have this ring in my nose, it'll collect around the stud. And so I have to be intentional. Listen, mine ain't gonna do like it's supposed to do, because I done interfere with the way nature works by putting a nose ring in there. So I gotta be careful. But if you have the audacity to act like a child when you used to pick your nose and play with it, if you rub that mucus, if you rub it long enough, it's gonna turn to dust. And for me, the first time I did that, I was like, that's what he's talking about. Like, our bodies are created to return to the dust. And that is the number one example that I had that just kind of just, woo, a whole like mind-blowing experience. So if you don't think it's too nasty for you to have to dig in your nose and get some of the mucus and just roll it around in your finger, it's gonna turn to dust. I'm telling you what I know. I'm not telling you what somebody told me. And so it's very interesting that here we are in this passage, clearly God saying, you are dust. That is what you should return to. And we have this whole stigma around people who are cremated. I am not at the least bit. I don't feel bad about telling you that both my parents were cremated, both of them, and that was their choice. It is my choice to be cremated. It's my brother's choices to be cremated. Like, that's what we're gonna do in our family. But I do think it's worth a conversation for your family, like to ask yourselves, because what happens to us, especially as Black folks, I can't really speak for any other family, because it didn't happen like this with the people who are identified as white that I was pastor of. It didn't happen like, I didn't see it. I was living in both worlds and I didn't see it the same way. But for us, like, we have the only money that we receive sometimes is the money that comes from the insurance, or the burial insurance, the life insurance that our loved ones took out. And so that's money that we can be using for any manner of things. And most of us turn around and give all of that money to the funeral home. Many of us don't realize that the funeral home is also caught up in the system of capitalism. And they don't want you to be cremated, because that's the least, you spend the least amount of money being cremated. You're going to spend more money picking out these caskets. And then when you think about it, like, do we really have that much land where everybody in the world can be buried 6 feet under once they die, or once their energy shifts? Like, let's just think about it. No. So what happens? People start getting buried on top of people. Like, they do what? It's a racket. And so if you want to do that, that's fine. For me, it's always about the why. Do you understand why this is the choice that you are making? And have you thought this through? Have you sought counsel with the people that you trust? Have you sat with God and heard from God what God has to say? Are you willing to have your mind changed if you receive new information? So I just wanted to put that out there, because it's in that part of the consequences where God says to Adam, like, you are going to return to dust. That is what's going to happen to you, because that's what you were formed. It's also reminds me of when I go places and it says don't walk on the grass. And I'm like, wait a minute now. Wasn't the grass here first? What you mean don't walk on the grass? Y'all done corrupted the grass. You telling me like the grass is so precious to you. Like, no, don't walk on the grass. Well, then why y'all got all these sidewalks and stuff? Why y'all done made these driveways and stuff? Why y'all got all this concrete up in here if the grass is so so precious to you? Because the grass was here first. So I always walk on the grass. Like, I think we got this. I just think we just mix everything up. So I just wanted to bring that up about the ashes to ashes. And then I wanted to make sure that you heard God say. And when I say God, I mean how the Spirit, I don't believe that these are God, that God said, write this down. I don't believe that. But since that's the context that we are in with the Bible, that we believe that it's inspired by God, it's a word, that's the language that we use. If that's the case and that's what you receive, I want to meet you where you are. So that's why I'm saying God said it. And so if God says to Adam, cursed is the ground, that is very important for us to hear, that God did not curse the humans, did not. And so let's keep going with that. Like, where does sin come in, and who is God talking to, and all that? Again, I'm not reading every single word in chapter 4, every single word in the story. Look, it's going to be a minute before I can stop talking about chapters and verses, because I grew up on chapters and verses. And I also studied the Lectio Divina, the divine reading. So, hey, there you go. So here, I want to start reading again. Adam made love to his wife Eve, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. She said, with the help of the Lord, I have brought forth a man. Later, she gave birth to his brother Abel. Now, Abel kept flocks, and Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. And Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering, he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry and his face was downcast. I want to read it again. Adam made love to his wife Eve, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. She said, with the help of the Lord, I have brought forth a man. Later, she gave birth to his brother Abel. Now, Abel kept flocks, and Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. And Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering, he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. And so here's my problem with all of the I don't want to say all the interpretations. Here's my problem with all of the indoctrination that we suffer through, because there are so many gaps in what I just read, that because of the way that our minds work as humans, we are wired, our brain is wired to fill in those gaps. And so in order for it to make sense, in order for us to receive it and understand it, we got to make it make sense. And so we create a story that satisfies us about what it is we're reading. Not just the Bible. We do that with anything that's happening. When death comes our way, when we don't have a chance to have a baby, like whatever situation or circumstance we are facing, when we don't understand it, we make up a story to soothe ourselves. That's what we do. And that's exactly what we've done with this portion of the text, because there are so many gaps in what I just read. And so here's Lo says, the text does not indicate that Cain's offering was the first fruits. Yeah. So Lo is already ahead of us. The text does not indicate that Cain's offering was the first fruits. Okay, let's go with that. But first, let me say this. Yes, you are right. Though that's not what the text says. But the text doesn't say either that Cain and Abel were instructed on how to give their offering. It doesn't say that. It just starts talking about an offering. After a while, they brought forth the offering. Okay, well, did they know what kind of offering they were supposed to bring forth? Like what kind of, like who shared that with them? Did Abel get some instruction from somebody that didn't talk to Cain? Like where did the understanding of what offering should look like come from? Because it's not in the text. And I'm not saying that nobody taught them about offerings. I'm saying the text does not tell us that. So for all of the people who are like, the Bible said it and I believe it and that settles it, well, you believe in something that the Bible don't say. Let's talk about that. Well, if that's the case, then much of what we listen to from the pulpit, the Bible ain't said nowhere. It's our interpretation, because we have to make up stories, because we cannot go to God face to face and say, what do you mean by this? So we depend on the Spirit to inspire us, to animate us, we trust and believe that God is working through us, that God can speak to us. That's what we believe. So whatever we believe God says to us, that's what we share with you. The problem is that we have set pastors and priests and rabbis and teachers and we've set them on these pedestals where God only tells them what the word says. And that's not true. God speaks to all of us. And so that's the question, like, does Cain even know what a proper offering is supposed to look like? The text does not say that it does, but we're going to assume, we're going to tell ourselves the story that it does, because why else would they be bringing offerings if somebody didn't tell them that's what you're supposed to do? So that's an assumption that we're making, but we believe that it's an educated assumption. We believe that it is an informed assumption, so we don't mind going with it. Okay, so let's go with it. Hey, Takia. We talking about sin, the purpose of it. The purpose of sin. Cigar on the line. Hey, Cigar. Ooh. And so here we have Cain. Cain is the firstborn. And think about this. Cain is the firstborn, and he is the one who tends the soil. Now, those of us who are living in this world right now as it is a common phenomenon for people who are parents who have their own their own business. What do they expect? Their expectation is that their children will follow their lead and then take over the business when the parents can no longer handle it for whatever reason, death, whether it's retirement, whether it's mental health issues, whatever it is, whether they just decide they tired, whatever it is. And so for Cain, the firstborn, to be the tender of the soil, that makes sense, because that's who his daddy was. The Bible, God says, the Bible says to Cain, curses the ground. You got to work this ground. Here's your firstborn. He gonna work the ground too. That makes sense. I can see that. Abel is the one who now tends the flocks. I can also see that. Like, we don't need both of y'all to work with these plants. Like, somebody needs to work on with these animals. Like, but it's really interesting to me though, because where did the animals come from? Where did these flocks that Abel is tending and taking care of, where they come from? Because the way I understood it from the Genesis, the creation stories, God created. Oh, He did create the animals. He created the animals, but did He put the animals in Eden? Because God put Adam and Eve in Eden, but did He bring the animals too? Well, evidently the animals must be somewhere, because that's who Abel is tending. So going back to what Lo says right here, Lo says that the text does not indicate that Cain's offering was the first fruits. In other words, the first fruits are going to be the best fruits. That when you offer something up to God, you only bring God the best, because God's self is the best. So how dare you offer to God that which is not worthy of being touched or handled or in the presence of God. Like, so we're going to give to God that which we're going to give to God that which is on the same level as God, the very best that we have. Well, not on the same level, but on the same level as far as we can with our limitations, because we're human. And so Lo is right. The text does not say that that's what Cain offered. Let's look at it again so you can see for yourself, because I do not want you depending on me. I do not want you depending on me. I want you to see for yourself. Okay. And so here we go. Let's read that again. This is the curse. No. We're not on the curse. We're right here. Adam made love to his wife Eve, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. She said, with the help of the Lord, I have brought forth a man. Later, she gave birth to his brother Abel. Now, Abel kept flocks, and Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. And Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering, he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry and his face was downcast. And so Abel says, listen, well, let me tell y'all something. Very rarely do I eat fried chicken, but if I'm going to eat some fried chicken, babe, I want to eat that. I want to peel off the crust. I want to peel off that skin. That skin has been fried crisp, and it's got a little bit of grease under there. You can see that fat part under. If you turn it over, like, I'm gonna eat that part all by itself. Like, that's that fat portion for me. That's what I want first. And so Abel says that part that you desire, that part that's that part that you know how the people say, if you love somebody, you'll know if somebody loves you if they'll give you your last bite. So if you'll give somebody your favorite piece, then that means you love them. So Abel says, I'm gonna offer you that part that I would want, that part that's the most tender to me, the fat portion of the first of the flocks, the firstborn. So I'm offering you my very best. So that's the difference between the offerings, and that's why Cain's offering was not received with as much favor as was Abel's. And so, oh, Vernon on the line. Vernon, hey, Vernon. So that's what's happening with these. I think I got the heat on, y'all. Do I have the heat on up in here? Oh, it might just be that I'm suffering from, I'm going through the change. Okay, so yes. All right. So that was the offering. Now, the Bible also says that because Cain's offering was not looked upon with the same favor as Abel, Cain felt some kind of way. And so he was angry and he was downcast. And when you look up the word downcast, not the etymology, but just the definition, when you just look at the definition of the word, you will see that it means that you are, wait a minute, let me see who else this is. Thelma Strong Faith. Okay, with your strong faith, come on, come through, Thelma. Comment for us with some of your strong faith if you feel led to do so. And so Cain is mad, he's angry, and he's depressed because his offering was not received as well as Abel's. But the scripture says that that God, the character of God says, no. We don't, let me get ahead of myself. It just says that Cain is angry and he's downcast, he's depressed. And so the question becomes, this is my question. And y'all, please, if y'all have a response to it, I'm about to come out these clothes. I'm about to come out these clothes. Y'all can't see me though, can you? Oh yeah, y'all. Oh, I got on a whole nother layer. Okay, so wait a minute. Let's see what Vernon is saying. First offering indicates self-sacrifice. Okay, so I'm not going, because you know how we do. You know how we do. Like, we get ready to give somebody something. Say, wait a minute, let me go through this and see which one I like. I ain't gonna give them the one I like. I want to give them my favorite, but whatever is left in here. I had it out with the people at the church one time. We were having a not a garage sale, because it was at the church. It was on the inside of the church. But anyway, what they were doing was, like, whatever, they went through their house, and all of the things that they did not want, all of the things that they would no longer wear, some of the stuff that was torn up and beaten up, that's what they were bringing to the sale at the church for the people in the community. Like, wait a minute, let me tell you what we not gonna do. If you wouldn't use it yourself, then don't try to sell it to somebody else. That was my rule. And I know people say, well, one man's trash is another man's treasure. I agree with that people are gonna see what you have discarded and they're gonna want it, but they're gonna want it in the condition that you would have wanted it in. So don't play to people like that. And so that's what Vernon is saying. Listen, that part that you would treasure, that part that you would treasure, that you would cherish, that's the part you offer to God, because that's how you are showing to God just how much you mean to me. It is a self-sacrifice. Absolutely. And so Cain did not do that. And Cain gets angry and he is depressed. But look what happens after that. Let's keep going. Let's read the next part. 4:2, 4:3. I'm trying to use a better system to make sure I have the stuff ready to go. Why do I do this all the time? Where's 4:3? Okay, so wait, I still got Vernon up there. So there's, so the Thelma Strong Faith. She comment, y'all. Y'all see her comments in there. Okay, so then the next part is down here, the last paragraph that says, then the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it. Let me read that last paragraph again. Then the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it. And so finally, sin is introduced. It wasn't in chapter 3 with Cain and Abel, with Adam and Eve. It's in chapter 4 with Cain and Abel, and it's only in regards to how Cain behaved with his offering. Cain, you chose. It was your decision not to offer the best. It was your decision not to make a self-sacrifice. It was your decision to keep the best stuff for yourself. That was your decision. And God did not even stop you from making that decision. But once you compared yourself to what Abel did, now you mad. But you mad at Abel. Why you mad at Abel? Abel had the right to make choices just like you had the right to make choices, but y'all made different choices, and the choices that Abel made were better than the choices that you made. And so because you did not decide to do what was right in offering God the best, now you mad. So really, you call yourself in competition with Abel, but really you mad at yourself. But you don't want to deal with yourself. You don't want to do the work that you have to do on yourself. You don't want to stop and ask yourself, why didn't I give God the best? Why didn't I offer God a sacrifice? Why didn't I make it mean something? Why didn't I make it be something? Why didn't I make it cost me something to offer this to God? Why didn't I do that? You didn't want to interrogate yourself. Instead, you looking at Abel. Oh, okay. So he got the best offering. Oh, so that's what we doing now. You gonna have favor on Abel. Oh, that's what we doing. But that's all because you don't want to tend your own heart. And so what God says is when you will not interrogate yourself, when you will not call your own thoughts and behaviors into question, when you will not focus on how you are moving in relationship to your God and to your siblings, your family, humanity, because Adam and Eve, they came forth as humans, not as male and females, but as different expressions of humanity. So when you will not do right by humans, that's when sin is there. Because the sin is not that you didn't do right. The sin is not that you had these thoughts. That's not the sin. The sin is how you responded to your own thoughts and feelings. Because none of us can stop the thoughts that come our way. We can't stop the fact that we got mad at somebody. We can't stop the fact that we jealous of somebody, because these are human emotions. That's what happens. We experience them. But we have full control over how we handle those emotions. And if we do not handle them correctly, that's what prompts us to sin. So we are not sin. Alcohol ain't sin. Makeup ain't sin. Dresses aren't sin. Drugs aren't, like, that's not sin. Sin is what happens when we do not take notice of what we are feeling. When we do not pause for a moment and say, you know what? I think it might be me. Let me sit with myself. Maybe this is me. This ain't got nothing to do with Abel at all, but this got everything to do with me. And so God says, when you are unwilling to think about, to deal with your own self, that's when you let sin in. Let's keep going. That was 4:2. Okay, here's 4:4. Now Cain said to his brother Abel, let's go out to the field. While they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, where is your brother Abel? I don't know, he replied. Am I my brother's keeper? The Lord said, what have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth. Cain said to the Lord, my punishment is more than I can bear. Let's sit with this for just a moment. So Cain, you mad at your brother because you didn't do right by God. Because it's so much easier to be mad at your brother, to be mad at your neighbor, to be mad at your sibling, to be mad at your family, because you don't feel like you can be mad at God. Because if you get mad at God, you is not going to win nan fight with God here. So you know better than to get mad with God. But oh, your brother, oh, you can handle him. But you ain't, your beef really is not with Abel. Your beef is with yourself, but you take it out on Abel. You kill him, and then you act like the Lord don't know what you're doing. And the Lord immediately says, what have you done? And he's like, where is your brother? I don't know. So now you're lying. So look at so now we want to talk about sin. Your behavior, because you did not take the time to interrogate yourself, because you did not take the time to be ashamed of your own self, to say, I don't want to be this way. I don't want to live like this. This is not how I want to be in relationship with my God nor my brother. Because you would not take that time to center yourself, the sin was right there ready. Okay, well, what are we going to do? Look, you ready? I'm ready. I'm ride or die. What we gonna do? And you did not even stop to breathe. You just kept moving, Cain, and you end up killing your brother as if that was the answer. But that was not the answer to your problems. It was only the beginning. Killing Abel was only the beginning. And so now God says, where is your brother? Now you done killed, and now you finna start lying. I don't know. And that's what my mama taught me. If somebody will lie, they will steal. And if somebody will steal, they will kill. That's what my mama told me. And I tell people all the time, listen, I don't do lies. I do not do. And then some people, they just be volunteering lies. You didn't even ask them nothing, and they just tell you something that they want you to know, and it's a lie. And so God says, this is the purpose of sin. It's right there. It's right there to keep you in line. It's right there when you have these negative thoughts. It's right there when you consider doing something awful to yourself or to your neighbor. It's right there as a reminder, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Because if you do it, you give me an opening. And if you give me an opening, it ain't going to end well for you. Let me see this comment. So here's Lo right here. We don't think of the consequences when we do inappropriate things. We don't. So Knowledge and I were walking today after the show, and Knowledge was talking about, I think we were talking about people that, I think we were talking about people who end up in prison. And we were talking about the people who really did commit some kind of egregious act. So we're not talking about the people who are innocent, who are in prison. We're not talking about the people who can't get out of jail because they don't have enough money. We're talking about people who actually performed some kind of act against their tribe, their family. And he said, but what we don't think about is you're harming this one person because of these emotions that are running high in you right now, but you're not thinking about their parent. You're not thinking about their child. You're not thinking about their siblings. You're not thinking about your future. You're not thinking about your child or your parent. You are so caught up in your emotions that you act out right then. And because you didn't just pause and think on these things. That's why the Bible says, let's think on it. Whatever is good, whatever is kind, whatever is of good, like those things, when something happens to you, take a moment. And the only way you can do that is if you learn your body. I have learned my body. Let me tell y'all something. Violence lives in me. It lives in me. I am not ashamed of that. It's based on how I was brought up. I will throw these hands. I will cuss you out. I know that's in me. And so whenever something happens and I feel this little tingle at the base of my spine, if I feel that tingle, I'm like, oh, okay. Sin crouching at your door. Sin crouching at your door. And then if I stay in that space, it's gonna start rising. It's gonna start creeping. And it's a creep, 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 creep. Like Luther Vandross. But if it makes it right here to the nape of my neck, that's the point of no return. That's the point of no return for me. When I tell you it ain't gonna end well I'm about to blow it up, and I will blow the house up with me standing in it. That's how bad it is. That's why I have to know my body. So that when I feel it, I say, you know what? I say this to people. This ain't gonna end well. And if they say what, listen, we need to change the we ain't got to stop talking, but we need to change the topic. And if they like what, then I have to remove myself. Because if I stay there, I'm going to sin. I'm going to do something harmful to my neighbor, whether it's a cussing out, a slap on the face, whatever it is, because sin is right there. So the purpose of sin, according to chapter 4, and according to this passage of scripture that we find in chapter 4, is to warn us, to be a cautionary emotion that we feel, to say, wait, let me stop. Let me stop. Lo said, you are after you'll throw them hands. Listen, I tell people all the time, if I was born back in the day when in the 60s and I had this, it was Malcolm and Martin, babe, I wouldn't have been with Martin. Don't even let me fake and shake like that. No. Listen, you're not finna bust me upside my head and I say, well, I'm gonna show you what love look like because I'm gonna stay here and take it. I wasn't built that way. And thank God, right? That's why I said that when we talk about creation, God did not create male and female. God created humanity. And both Adam and Eve are expressions of humanity. And for them to look differently, what God created was diversity. So we needed those people who were nonviolent. We need that in the space. And we need those people that would say, listen, you come for me, I'm coming for you, because we got to protect our folks. We needed all of that. I'm just telling you which camp I would have been in. I'm not saying don't be nonviolent. I'm just telling you that wouldn't have been me. That's all I'm saying. And so here is Vernon. Vernon says, that's why I consider murder the ultimate selfish act. How dare you get so mad at something that's going on in you that you kill me without any thought about my life, my family, my children, my future, what the contribution. I could have made a contribution. I could have cured cancer. I could have come up with a cure for AIDS, HIV. I could have done any number of things. You sold the whole world short, because all of us who were designing, if you believe that you were created by God, then we were designed for purpose. We were designed as gifts to the world. So you are eliminating gifts of God because you don't have the self-discipline to say, hold up, hold up, hold up. Yes, I'm mad. Yes, I'm angry. Yes, I'm depressed. But let me ask myself why. Let me go down that route before I just act out. So I agree with you. It is the ultimate selfish act. So let's keep going. So that's where sin. So yes, God did say sin. God says sin, but he does not say to Cain, you are a sinner. That is not what God says. In fact, let's see what God says after that. So this is, I think we're right here. Is that where we are? No. This is where we are. Because remember, the last thing we heard Cain say was, my punishment is too much for me to bear. And then he goes on to say, today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. But is a powerful word. The Lord said to him, not so. Anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over. Then the Lord put a mark on Cain so that no one who found him would kill him. So Cain went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Let me read that again. This is Cain talking. Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. But the Lord said to him, not so. Anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over. Then the Lord put a mark on Cain so that no one who found him would kill him. So Cain went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden. So even though Cain killed his brother, God said, but I still will protect you. Anybody that put a hand on you gonna have to answer to me. So God, that don't sound like God calling Cain a sinner to me. He says, listen, you're human, and y'all don't know how to live divinely. Y'all don't know. That's a work. Y'all are works. You got to get to the point that you understand what it means to embody divinity. You gotta work that thing out where you finally understand the purpose for which you were created. You were created in love, by love, and for love. So even if you get mad, you gotta work on that. Work on yourself. You can't just lash out because your emotions are running high. That's how you deal with the human part of you. But there's a divine part of you that can overrule, that can override what the human part of you wants to do. And you have full control over that if you learn yourself. If you are willing to say, you know what, sometimes I ain't right, y'all. Sometimes I got some bad thoughts. Sometimes I want to kill somebody. Like, if you're willing to tell the truth about who you see, we too busy trying to be these kind of Christians where, we'll never do nothing wrong. Everything is always, I'm blessed and highly favored. Everything is always, the Lord been good to me. God is good all the time and all the time. God, that ain't no real faith. Because real faith says, I need you to come in here and stop me because I'm about to burn it down. That's when God is saying, I'm right here. I'm right here to help you through this thing. And even you can't, even though you killed your brother, I ain't gonna let nobody do nothing to you. So there's no way you can tell me, there's no way you can make me believe that God is using this sinner thing to let us know, see, you do wrong, you always separated from God. Sin is what that's what we say. Sin means you are separated from God. Well, if killing is what we call a sin and it separates from you from God, then explain this to me. God said, no, I wish God came in like Cedric the Entertainer. I wish would. I wish they would put a hand on you. In fact, I'm gonna make it so that they can't act like they didn't know it was you. I'm gonna put a mark on you. So everybody will know that this is still my child. Now he didn't do right by his brother. He didn't do right by me, but he is still child. And he says, "Uh, Cain, now you got to get up out of here." Like, no doubt about it. You got to get up out of here. And your consequence is that you're never gonna feel like you belong anywhere. That's your consequence. That's just what it is. But that doesn't mean I don't love you, says God. That doesn't mean that I am separating myself from you. You got to get out of here. That's right. I don't want you in my face to kill. Lo, I know for a fact. See, God, I don't know if you have children. I know for a fact y'all got children. And I just believe this because I have parents. I just believe this, that sometimes your children do something. You say, you better get out of my face. You better get out of my face. Has that not happened? God said, listen, you still mine. I love you. But right now, you better get out of my face. Here's Vernon. I was not no saint and I did my, oh no, this is not Vernon, this low. I was not no saint and I did my dirt. And I would actually say that even though you did your dirt, you were still a saint. And the way I'm describing saint is somebody who believed that you had some kind of higher power at work within you. Because God does not leave you when people that talk about the sex out of wedlock, they be like, well, girl, now we can't. But I'm like, you don't think God saw y'all? You think that God was like, oh, they're having sex, let me not look. You think that when you over here clowning and you cussing somebody out, that God done turn his back? So because you doing wrong, God is like, okay, I can't be there where they doing wrong, so I'm gonna act like I don't see it. I will say that you were the very same person that you are, a lover of, however you define yourself. But I say that I am one who is in right relationship with the lover of my soul. I see God as a lover of my soul. And I think that you were still that person, even though you were doing what you were doing. So here's Vernon. Question. Is Cain's punishment a statement about capital punishment? Is Cain's punishment a statement about capital punishment? So y'all chime in on this for Vernon. And what my knee-jerk reaction is that yes, Cain's punishment is a statement about capital punishment, and it would be a statement against it. Because we use capital punishment, we say, oh, it's so interesting to me how we move in these spaces of faith. Because our politics say, okay, you got people who are they're political leaders, and they say that they love God, that they're Christians. They say all of that. They're Christians, they're Catholic, whatever they say they are, that's what they say. And they believe in God, and they have a relationship and all of this stuff. Well, if that's the case, then if God did not kill Cain because he killed Abel, then how do we justify killing people because they killed somebody? Because what God says to Cain is, yes, you killed your brother and you should not have done that, but I'm still going to be in relationship with you. God doesn't say, now let me tell you something. I got to get rid of you. God doesn't say that. And so I would say that this is God's punishment is a clear declaration that God is not on the side of capital punishment. And how is it that you say that since a person kills somebody, we gonna kill them to let them know that killing is wrong? Make that make sense for me. Since you kill somebody, we want you to know it's wrong. And in order for us to let you know it's wrong, we gonna kill you. That don't even make no sense. And then when you think about how capital punishment is used as a pawn, so for many people who have done wrong by their neighbors, they want to the criminal injustice system will say, okay, they're gonna investigate, they're gonna indict you, you got the charge, you got to go to trial. But they'll say, if you turn state's evidence, if you show us where the bodies are, we'll take the death penalty off the table. So you using it at your own whim. It's a game to you. Like, if you give us what we want, we'll save your life. But if you don't, we're going to kill you, because you need to know that killing is wrong. So that's what I would say. So so Lo is responding to you, Vernon, and Lo says this. No, because capital punishment for the death penalty. What now? So the question was, is Cain's punishment a statement about capital punishment? And Lo says, no, capital punishment is for the death penalty. I'm not sure I understand what you're saying, but I think what you're saying is God is not going to exact capital punishment. Like, God is not going to. Oh, okay. Okay. So he's clarifying. So no, because capital punishment is used for the death penalty. Yes, but we usually sentence people to death for killing folks, right? And so that's what Vernon is asking. So does that mean that the system that we're using that kills people for killing people, is it flawed? Because God didn't kill Cain for killing Abel. So where we get that from? Because it ain't in the Bible, not in Genesis 4. It's not there. Yeah, it's 8:01. I feel like we just getting started. Does God, okay, here is Cain. I mean, Cain. I ain't mean to call you Cain. Here's Vernon. Does God take away our power to kill murderers? God don't take no power from us. And that is what God is saying to us through Cain. You have these ideas in your head. You have these emotions that you are experiencing. You have the right, the will, the consciousness to make decisions, even if they are harmful and detrimental to you, and even if they are harmful and detrimental to other people. You have every right in your human body to make those decisions. So God don't take it away. What God says is, I don't think you know me. If you decide you're going to kill murderers, I don't think you know me. Because what I have modeled for you is how to stay in right relationship with murderers. Y'all done came up with y'all own system that kills them. So I don't believe God takes that power away from us. So, yeah, so right. So Lo says that, in my opinion, is not godly. That's why we come to church, y'all. So we can wrestle with, what does it mean to show up as a godly person in the world? A godly person would not be in favor of capital punishment. A godly person would not decide to kill another human. A godly person would not be mad at somebody else because we didn't do the right things for ourselves. That's not what faith, and that's not what God is about. Faith is about believing that there's somebody helping us navigate this world. That's what faith. I'm depending on you to be my companion. I'm depending on you to journey with me, God. I'm depending on you to speak to me in those moments when sin is crouching at my door. I'm depending on you to make sure that I learn how to open myself up to you all the time. When we say pray without ceasing, that's what it means. I'm always in a posture of prayer. I'm always open to hear what you have to say to me. And if you say don't go that way, I ain't going. If you say stop, I'm stopping. But if I don't stop, you still love me, because you don't call me sinner. That's what the world calls me, but that's not what you call me. Thank y'all so much for showing up for Beyond the Page right here at 7 o'clock every single Tuesday. We having church up in here, y'all. I'll see y'all next week. Invite somebody. Bye now.